The galaxy was full of different species, each with their own powers and technologies. But they had one thing in common. They all feared Earth. The humans were known for their stubbornness, intelligence, and fast-growing technology. When Earth first joined the Galactic Council, the other species were curious but not too worried. They thought humans were just like any other species, still learning to navigate the vastness of space. But as time passed, Earth began to grow stronger. The humans quickly developed powerful technologies, including faster-than-light travel and advanced weapons. They started to explore other planets, and their ships became some of the fastest in the galaxy. Their knowledge grew, and with it, their ambition. They wanted more freedom to make their own decisions, to have more control over their own future. But the Galactic Council was not ready for that. The Galactic Council had been in charge of all major decisions in the galaxy for centuries. They made the rules, and every species had to follow them. But when the humans of Earth started pushing for more power and independence, the Council grew worried. They feared that if Earth was allowed too much freedom, they could disrupt the delicate balance of power in the galaxy. The other species saw humans as unpredictable. They didn't know what the humans might do with their growing technology. Some said that Earth would become a threat, using their power to conquer other species. Others feared Earth's increasing population and rapid growth. They saw Earth as a ticking time bomb, too powerful, too wild, and too dangerous. They couldn't let humans become too strong. At a meeting of the Galactic Council, things took a turn for the worse. Earth's delegation, led by their most respected diplomats, presented a bold request: more autonomy for Earth. They wanted to make decisions for themselves, without waiting for the Council's approval. They wanted to expand their influence and have the freedom to act in their own interests. But the other members of the Council were not ready to give Earth what they asked for. They saw it as a threat. The more the humans argued for their rights, the more the other species feared them. The leaders of the Council knew they had to act quickly before Earth grew too powerful. They could not risk losing control over the galaxy to a single species, no matter how smart or strong they had become. In a shocking move, the Council voted to ban Earth from the Galactic Council. They officially revoked Earth's membership and told the humans they could no longer be part of the decision-making process. The humans were stunned. They had expected some pushback, but not this. It was a harsh betrayal, a slap in the face to all they had worked for. Earth had trusted the Council, and now they were being cast aside without mercy. The humans tried to reason with the Council, to explain that they didn't want to fight. They simply wanted more freedom, a chance to build their own future without being controlled. But the Council had already made up its mind. The decision was final, and Earth was no longer welcome. For many on Earth, this moment felt like the end. The Council was powerful, and they had been part of it for so long. Without the Council's protection and support, Earth would be alone in a galaxy full of stronger species. But not everyone on Earth saw it as the end. Some saw it as the beginning. In secret, Earth's leaders met. They were angry, hurt, and betrayed, but they weren't ready to give up. They knew they couldn't just accept the Council's decision. They had worked too hard to let everything slip away. The betrayal stirred something deep inside them, a fire that would not be extinguished. Earth was no longer going to wait for permission to succeed. They would make their own path, even if it meant going against the galaxy. The leaders of Earth decided to unite their people. They would no longer be a part of the Galactic Council, but they didn't need the Council's help to survive. Earth had resources, technology, and most importantly, determination. The Council might have kicked them out, but Earth was strong enough to stand on its own. They would build their own future, their own empire. Earth's scientists, engineers, and military leaders began working together in secret. They began to develop new weapons, ships, and technologies that would rival anything the Council had ever seen. The humans knew they had to act fast. The galaxy would not give them a second chance, and they couldn't let the Council think they were weak. Earth's empire would rise from the ashes of their betrayal. The Council thought they had won. They thought Earth would fall into chaos and helplessness, but they didn't realize the most dangerous thing about humanity. They didn't realize that when humans were pushed to the edge, they would fight back with everything they had. The betrayal was only the beginning of something much bigger. After the betrayal, Earth was in shock. The Galactic Council, once their ally, had kicked them out. The humans felt hurt, confused, and abandoned. But instead of falling into despair, something deep inside them sparked. This was not the end. It was just the beginning. Earth's leaders quickly understood that they could not rely on anyone else anymore. They would have to build their own future, free from the Council's control. In secret meetings, Earth's top leaders came together. There was no time to waste. The Council might have taken away their seat at the table, but they still had something powerful. Earth's people. They had creativity, intelligence, and the drive to survive. The people of Earth had always been resilient, and now they would need to be stronger than ever before. The first thing Earth's leaders decided was that they had to unite every country, every government, every person under one banner. There could be no more divisions. The old world politics had to be set aside. This was a fight for survival, and it required every human to stand together. Governments from all over Earth, once fighting over their differences, now joined forces. The new united Earth wasn't just a dream, it was a necessity. While the leaders worked on uniting Earth, Earth's best scientists and engineers began to work in secret. They knew they had to build something powerful, something that could defend Earth from any enemy, including the very council that had betrayed them. For years, humans had been studying alien technology, learning from the technology of other species. They had gathered information, often under the radar, using their own creativity and skills to improve upon what they learned. Now was the time to use all that knowledge. The scientists and engineers worked day and night. They focused on building new ships, stronger weapons, and advanced technology. Their goal was to create an army that would rival the greatest powers of the galaxy. The first step was to design new warships, unlike anything Earth had ever seen before. These ships would be faster, stronger, and more powerful than the Council's best. They would be equipped with energy shields and weapons that could cut through enemy ships like a knife through butter. Earth's military leaders knew they needed to build an army too. But this wasn't going to be just any army. They couldn't rely on traditional tactics. The Council would expect that. Instead, Earth's new army would be different. It would be small, but incredibly effective. Human soldiers were known for their bravery and creativity. Earth's leaders decided that instead of sending large traditional armies, they would send smaller, more agile forces that could strike quickly and disappear before the enemy knew what hit them. The plan was clear. Earth would fight smart, not just hard. They would use their new technologies and their understanding of the galaxy's systems to stay one step ahead of the Council. The humans would not be the underdogs for much longer. The Council had made a huge mistake by underestimating Earth, and they were about to pay for it. As the military prepared, Earth's diplomats worked on a different plan. They knew they had to rebuild their reputation in the galaxy. The Council might have turned its back on Earth, but other species might still be willing to listen. The human diplomats traveled to the far reaches of the galaxy, meeting with alien species who had also suffered under the Council's rule. Many of these species were unhappy with the Council's control. They were tired of being treated as second-class citizens. These species had always feared the Council, but they also saw Earth's potential. They saw that the humans were different, willing to stand up for themselves and for what was right. Slowly, Earth began to form alliances with these species. They promised to help them break free from the Council's grip if they joined Earth's cause. These new allies brought their own strengths to the table: advanced technologies, strong armies, and the knowledge of how to fight the Council. Together, they formed a new coalition, one that would stand strong against the powerful Galactic Council. Back on Earth, the public was beginning to understand the seriousness of the situation. People who once feared war now embraced the idea of standing up for their freedom. They knew that Earth's future depended on their success. The government issued a call to action, encouraging everyone to contribute to the cause, whether it was through military service, building technologies, or supporting the war effort in any way they could. The human spirit was stronger than ever, and the entire planet was ready to fight back. As the first wave of Earth's new ships and soldiers prepared to leave the planet, there was a feeling of hope in the air. The humans had been knocked down, but now they were getting back up. The war wasn't going to be easy, but Earth was ready. They had a plan, they had the technology, and most importantly, they had something the Council didn't: the will to fight for their freedom, no matter the cost. Earth's new empire had just begun. The galaxy would soon know that Earth was no longer a small, helpless planet. It was a rising power, and no one could stop it. Earth had spent months preparing. The new ships were ready, the soldiers trained, and the alliances with other species were solidifying. Earth's leaders knew that the first strike would be the most important. It would send a clear message to the Galactic Council. Earth was not defeated. Earth was rising, and they would no longer be pushed around. It was time to take action. The target was simple: the Council's main trade routes. These routes were the lifeblood of the galaxy's economy, carrying supplies, weapons, and goods from one planet to another. The Council relied heavily on these trade routes, and without them, their control over the galaxy would start to weaken. Earth's plan was to hit the Council's supply lines hard and fast. It was a bold move, but Earth's military leaders knew they had no choice. They had to show the galaxy that Earth was not a planet to be ignored. The humans didn't have the numbers to fight a full-scale war, but they had something better: speed and surprise. They had spent months building a fleet of warships that were not only fast, but also armed with cutting-edge technology. These ships were designed for hit-and-run attacks, moving in quickly, dealing massive damage, and then retreating before the enemy could respond. Earth's new military was small, but it was deadly. The first mission was set. A fleet of 50 ships, some of the fastest in the galaxy, would strike a vital supply convoy that was transporting resources from one of the Council's planets to another. The convoy was heavily guarded, but Earth's fleet was ready. They had studied the convoy's movements, the patterns of the Council's patrols, and the weaknesses in the convoy's defense systems. Everything was planned. The night before the attack, the humans gathered in their control rooms, watching the fleet prepare. Every person on Earth knew how important this moment was. If this mission succeeded, it would be the beginning of something huge. If it failed, it could mean the end of Earth's new empire before it even started. There was no room for failure. As the fleet left Earth's atmosphere, the excitement and tension were high. The ships moved swiftly through space, their engines silent, their weapons ready. Earth's fleet was smaller than most, but it was fast, and it had the element of surprise on its side. The convoy they were targeting had no idea what was coming. As the fleet approached the convoy, the ships took their positions. The humans had learned the hard way that they had to strike quickly and precisely. They didn't have the firepower for a long battle, but they didn't need it. They needed one quick, powerful blow to cripple the convoy and send a message. The attack began with a sudden explosion. One of Earth's ships fired a precision missile that hit the lead ship of the convoy, disabling its engines. The convoy's guards reacted quickly, but Earth's fleet was already on the move. The humans used their superior speed to weave in and out of the convoy's defense, firing weapons that cut through the enemy ships like a hot knife through butter. The Council's ships were not built for such fast-paced, agile combat, and their heavy defenses were useless against the humans' lightning-fast strikes. Within minutes, the convoy was in chaos. Earth's ships had already disabled 3 of the convoy's 6 ships, and the remaining vessels were retreating. The humans didn't chase them down. That wasn't the plan. The mission was to hit hard and fast, then get out before the Council could send reinforcements. Earth's ships began their retreat, disappearing into the vastness of space. The convoy, now crippled, sent out a distress signal. The Council's alarmed response was immediate, but it was too late. The attack had already been completed, and Earth's fleet was miles away, heading back to their secret base. The message had been sent. Earth was not weak. Earth was not afraid. Earth was ready to fight. Back on Earth, the news spread like wildfire. People cheered in the streets, celebrating the success of the first strike. It was a huge victory, not just for the military, but for every person on Earth. They had proven that they could take on the most powerful force in the galaxy and win. It was the first step toward their freedom. But the Council wasn't going to let this attack go unanswered. The humans knew that the Council would respond. This was only the beginning, and the real fight was just starting. Earth had made its move, and now the galaxy would see what humanity was truly capable of. The first attack had been a success, but Earth knew it had to be ready for the Council's next move. They couldn't afford to rest. They had just woken the sleeping giant that was the Galactic Council, and now the real war was about to begin. The success of Earth's first attack spread like wildfire through the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, people across the stars saw that Earth was not the weak, helpless planet they had once thought. The humans had struck with precision and power, and they had won. The Galactic Council, once the most powerful force in the galaxy, was beginning to feel the pressure. But Earth knew that this victory, though important, was just the beginning. They had proved their strength, but they needed more than just a few victories. To take on the Galactic Council, they needed allies, powerful allies who were just as tired of the Council's control as the humans were. As news of Earth's success spread, whispers began to travel across the galaxy. The smaller planets, those who had always been oppressed by the Council's rule, started to take notice. They were tired of the Council's demands, their unfair treatment, and their endless wars. For years, these planets had suffered under the Council's weight, and they had no choice but to obey. But now, Earth had shown them that there was another way. There was hope. Rebels from all corners of the galaxy started to reach out to Earth. Some came from planets that had been forced into the Council's military. Others came from peaceful worlds, tired of seeing their resources drained by the Council's endless demands. All of them had one thing in common. They were looking for a way to fight back, and Earth was offering them that chance. The first to reach out were the Jorans, a species known for their agility and speed. They were a small but proud race, and they had long been used by the Council as spies and scouts. But the Jorans had grown tired of being controlled. They wanted to be free. When they heard of Earth's victory, they saw it as a sign. They knew that if Earth could strike at the heart of the Council, then they could do the same. They offered their services, bringing with them their knowledge of the Council's inner workings and their ability to move unseen across the galaxy. Next came the Veldari, a powerful species of warriors who had been oppressed by the Council for decades. The Veldari had been used as soldiers in the Council's endless wars, and their people had paid the price. But they were strong, and they were ready to fight for their freedom. When the Veldari heard about Earth's success, they knew they could be part of something bigger. They sent a message to Earth, pledging their support and offering their armies to the cause. They believed that together, they could take down the Council. Other species soon followed. The Phaedrons, a race known for their technological advancements, offered Earth their knowledge of weapons and shipbuilding. The Skrell, a race of skilled engineers, sent their brightest minds to help Earth build stronger ships and weapons. Even the small, peaceful species like the Lorani, who had never been involved in warfare, sent their diplomats to Earth, eager to join the fight for freedom. Each of these species brought something unique to the table. The Jorans brought their speed and stealth, the Veldari brought their strength and courage, and the Phaedrons and Skrell brought their technological expertise. Together, they formed a coalition that would soon become the most powerful force in the galaxy. Back on Earth, the leaders knew they had to act quickly. The Council would not stand by and let this alliance grow. The humans had made their first strike, but now they had to make sure their new allies were ready to fight alongside them. Earth's military began training the new rebel forces, teaching them how to fight together, how to coordinate their attacks, and how to use their combined strengths to outsmart the Council. The training was intense. There was no time for mistakes. The galaxy was watching, and the Council was already preparing to strike back. The rebels had to be ready for the battles ahead, and Earth was determined to give them the best chance they had. At the same time, Earth's diplomats worked tirelessly to gain support from even more planets. The human diplomats traveled from world to world, speaking to leaders who had long been under the Council's thumb. They promised freedom, equality, and a chance to rebuild their worlds, free from the Council's control. Slowly, more planets began to join the fight. Some came for the promise of freedom, others out of fear of the Council's wrath, but all of them knew that they could no longer stand by and let the Council rule with an iron fist. Soon, Earth's coalition had grown larger than anyone had expected. What had started as a small resistance movement was now a galaxy-wide rebellion. The Council, once thought to be invincible, was beginning to feel the pressure. They had underestimated the humans, and now they were about to face a united front of species, each one fighting for their freedom, and led by Earth. The rebels were ready. The galaxy was ready. And Earth, once the underdog, was now the leader of the greatest rebellion the galaxy had ever seen. Together, they would rise against the Galactic Council, and nothing would stop them. The rebellion was growing stronger every day. Earth, once a small, forgotten planet, was now the leader of a massive coalition. With the help of their new allies, they had managed to take down a few of the Council's supply convoys, and the galaxy was beginning to take notice. The Galactic Council, once the unquestioned ruler of the galaxy, was starting to feel the pressure. They had made a mistake by underestimating Earth, but they weren't about to give up without a fight. They were the most powerful force in the galaxy, and they would do whatever it took to crush the rebellion. The Council's first move was to send reinforcements. They knew that Earth's forces were small compared to their own, but they also knew that Earth had the element of surprise on their side. The Council had spent too long ruling with fear, but now they were facing the united front. This wasn't just Earth anymore. This was a galaxy-wide rebellion, and it was spreading fast. In a high-level meeting, the leaders of the Galactic Council made their decision. They would send their most powerful fleet to crush Earth's forces. The fleet, made up of the best ships and the most experienced commanders, was tasked with wiping out the rebellion once and for all. The Council's commanders were confident. They believed that their strength would be enough to defeat the rebels. They had the numbers, the firepower, and the experience. The battle began in the vast emptiness of space. The Council's fleet moved quickly, their ships closing in on the rebel base where Earth's fleet and their allies were hiding. The humans and their new allies were ready, though. They knew that the Council would retaliate. They had been preparing for this moment, training for it. The rebels had the speed and surprise on their side, and they would use it to their advantage. The first wave of Council ships arrived. The fleet was enormous, much larger than anything the rebels had ever faced. The Council's ships were massive, their weapons powerful, their shields nearly impenetrable. They opened fire, sending waves of energy blasts toward the rebel base. The humans and their allies quickly took action, dodging the blasts and returning fire. The battle was fierce, and the space around them became a storm of explosions and laser fire. Earth's fleet, though smaller, was faster and more agile. They darted in and out of the Council's lines, hitting hard and retreating before the enemy could respond. The Zorans, with their speed and stealth, slipped through the Council's defenses, launching surprise attacks from unexpected angles. The Veldari, with their strength and skill in close combat, boarded Council ships and fought hand-to-hand with the enemy, overpowering them with their superior combat abilities. The Phaedrons and Skrell worked together, targeting weak points in the Council's ships and disabling their weapons and shields with their advanced technology. The Council had the numbers, but the rebels had strategy. They used their speed, their knowledge of the enemy's weaknesses, and their ability to work together to keep the Council on the defensive. But the Council wasn't going to let this fight slip away so easily. Their commanders had a plan. The Council's reinforcements were endless, and they began to surround the rebels. With each new wave of Council ships, the rebels found it harder to dodge and counterattack. The Council had learned from their previous mistakes, and they began to focus on taking out Earth's fleet first. They knew that if they could break the heart of the rebellion, the rest of the coalition would crumble. For hours, the battle raged on. The rebels fought valiantly, but the Council's numbers were overwhelming. One by one, Earth's ships were damaged, and their allies were slowly pushed back. The humans had not faced a fight like this before. They had won their early battles with surprise and speed, but now they were facing the full force of the Council's might. It was a battle of endurance, and it was clear that the Council had more firepower, more resources, and more ships. Just as the rebels were starting to lose ground, a new twist in the battle came. A new fleet arrived, this one carrying reinforcements for the rebels. It was the Lirani, the peaceful species who had promised their support. They had spent their time building new ships, and they had come to help. The Lirani brought their advanced technology and their strong defense systems, and they quickly joined the fight, turning the tide in the rebels' favor. With the Lirani's arrival, the rebels began to push back. The combined strength of Earth's fleet and their allies was too much for the Council to handle. Slowly, but surely, the Council's ships began to retreat. The rebels, now with the upper hand, launched a final, decisive attack. The Council's fleet, once unstoppable, was now in disarray. Earth and its allies had shown that they could stand up to the might of the Galactic Council. But this was only one battle. The Council, though beaten, was far from defeated. They would rebuild, and they would come again. Earth and the rebels knew that this was just the beginning. The war was far from over, but they had proven that they could fight back. The first wave of the Council's attack had been repelled, and Earth's empire was growing stronger with every passing day. Now, with the first victory under their belt, Earth and its allies were ready for what came next. They would continue to strike, continue to fight, and continue to grow their power until the Galactic Council had no choice but to surrender. After the battle with the Council's fleet, Earth and its allies knew that the war was far from over. The Council had been pushed back, but they were not beaten. Earth had shown the galaxy that it could fight, but now the real challenge was ahead. The rebellion had gained strength, but they had to make one final push to break the Council's hold on the galaxy for good. The leaders of the rebellion gathered in secret, planning the next step. Earth had suffered many losses, but they still had enough strength to strike again. The question was, where should they hit? The Council had many strongholds, but there was one that stood out, a massive space station called the heart of the Council. It was the center of the Council's power, a symbol of their rule over the galaxy. If Earth and its allies could take it down, the entire Council would lose its grip on the galaxy. The heart of the Council was heavily guarded, with a fleet of warships protecting it at all times. It was well defended, with powerful shields and weapons that could destroy any ship that came too close. But Earth had one advantage. The Council had no idea how close they were to losing. Earth's leaders knew that they had to strike fast and hard. The heart of the Council had to fall, and they had to do it before the Council could send reinforcements. The rebellion's fleet, though smaller than the Council's, had learned from past battles. They had the element of surprise on their side, and they were ready to use it. The plan was risky, but it was their best chance. The Zorans, with their unmatched speed, would be the first to strike. They would slip past the Council's defenses and create a diversion, drawing the enemy's attention away from the real attack. The Veldari, with their strength, would board any ships that tried to stop the rebels, ensuring that the humans and their allies could continue their assault. The Phaedrons and Skrell would disable the Heart's shields and weapons, using their advanced technology to find weak points in the station's defenses. The rebels had trained for this moment. They had worked together, learning each other's strengths, and now they were ready to strike. They knew that if this mission failed, the rebellion would be over. But if they succeeded, they would deal a blow to the Council that would change the galaxy forever. The attack began under the cover of darkness. Earth's fleet moved in silently, their ships slipping past the Council's outer defenses without being detected. The Jorans were the first to reach the station, moving like shadows in the night. They created a diversion, attacking the outer defenses of the heart of the Council, drawing the attention of the enemy fleet. The Council's ships turned their weapons toward the Jorans, giving the rest of the rebellion's fleet the opening they needed. With the Council distracted, Earth's fleet and its allies made their move. The Veldari boarded the first of the Council's ships, quickly overpowering the soldiers inside. The Phaedrons and Skrell used their technology to disable the Heart's shields, and soon, the station's defenses were weakening. The humans led the charge, their ships moving in and out of the enemy's fire, dealing massive damage to the Heart's weapons and control systems. The battle was fierce. The Council's fleet fought back with everything they had, but the rebellion was relentless. Earth's fleet was small, but it was fast and well-coordinated. The rebels used their knowledge of the Council's weaknesses to their advantage, targeting the Heart's most vulnerable points. Slowly but surely, the heart of the Council began to fall. The shields were down, and the weapons were disabled. The Council's fleet, once so powerful, was being pushed back. Earth's ships were everywhere, darting in and out of the fight, taking out enemy ships and protecting their allies. The Council, now fighting to defend their symbol of power, was crumbling under the pressure. With one final push, Earth's fleet broke through the Heart's remaining defenses. The rebels launched their last assault, planting explosives on the station's core. The countdown began. In a matter of minutes, the heart of the Council would be no more. The Council's fleet tried to regroup, but it was too late. Earth's rebels had done the impossible. The heart of the Council, the center of their power, exploded in a massive burst of energy, sending shockwaves across the galaxy. The Council's grip on the galaxy was broken, and the rebellion had won. Back on Earth, the people erupted into celebration. The battle was over. The Council had been defeated. It was a hard-fought victory, but it was worth every sacrifice. The galaxy was free, and Earth had led the charge. For the first time in history, humans had taken their place as leaders of the galaxy. But Earth knew that this victory, while important, was only the beginning. The galaxy had been changed forever, and now it was up to the humans and their allies to rebuild, to make sure that the Council would never rise again. The war was over, but the work had just begun. Earth had made its final push, and it had succeeded. The rebellion had turned into an empire, and now Earth's future was in its own hands. The explosion of the heart of the Council sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. News spread fast. The Galactic Council, the once powerful force that controlled the stars, was no more. Its central hub, the heart, was destroyed, and its fleets scattered. The rebellion, led by Earth and its new allies, had won. The galaxy was free from the Council's tyranny. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted. People cheered in the streets. The skies above the planet were filled with fireworks, and the air was filled with joy. The war was over. Earth had not only survived, it had triumphed. But the victory wasn't just for Earth. It was for every species who had suffered under the Council's rule. The Veldari, the Jorans, the Phaedrons, and many others had fought alongside Earth. And now, together, they had a chance to rebuild. But with the Council's defeat came a new challenge. The galaxy was in chaos. The power vacuum left by the Council's fall was huge. Worlds that had been under Council control were now free, but they were also lost. Without the Council's order, there was uncertainty, and many planets were unsure of what would come next. This was the moment Earth had been preparing for. It was time for Earth to step up, not just as a leader, but as a force that would guide the galaxy into a new future. The leaders of Earth's rebellion gathered to discuss the future. They knew that the galaxy needed more than just freedom. It needed unity. Many of the species that had fought with them had no idea how to lead. Others were broken from years of war. Earth's leaders knew that they had to step in and help rebuild, to ensure that the galaxy would never again fall into chaos. Earth offered a solution: a new alliance, a new government. Not just a collection of free planets, but a united empire, one where every species could have a voice. Earth had the strength, but they also had the will to create something different, a government based on equality, freedom, and cooperation. The first step was the formation of the United Galactic Empire, with Earth at its center. Earth's leaders were careful to make it clear that this would not be an empire like the Council. This was not about control, but about bringing order to a galaxy that had been torn apart. Each planet, each species, would have its own rights and representation. The new empire would be built on trust, cooperation, and mutual respect. The Veldari, the first to pledge their loyalty to Earth, helped establish the empire's military. They would train the new forces not to dominate, but to protect the weak and keep peace in the galaxy. The Zorans, with their expertise in intelligence and stealth, helped form a network that would keep the galaxy safe from any who would try to threaten the peace. The Phaedrons and Skrell contributed their technological expertise, ensuring that the new empire had the best ships, the most advanced weapons, and the ability to communicate across vast distances. Soon, more and more planets joined the empire. The once small rebellion had become the foundation of a new era. The people of Earth were no longer seen as outsiders or weaklings, but as leaders. And the other species who had fought beside them knew that Earth was the right choice to lead them into the future. The Council was gone, but Earth was here to stay. As the months passed, the new United Galactic Empire began to take shape. Earth's influence spread across the stars, and new alliances formed. The humans, once the underdogs, had become the backbone of a new order. They'd rebuilt war-torn worlds, helped restore peace, and worked to create new technologies that would improve life for everyone. But the rise of Earth's empire wasn't just about politics or power. It was about hope. The galaxy had seen the horrors of the Council's rule, and now they saw a chance for something better. Earth had shown them that change was possible, that even the smallest planet could stand up to the greatest powers in the galaxy and win. There were challenges, of course. Some species did not agree with Earth's vision. Some worlds resisted the new order, fearful that Earth's power would grow too strong. But Earth's leaders were patient. They knew that trust had to be earned, and they worked hard to build relationships with every planet in the empire. Slowly, they showed the galaxy that their vision of unity was the way forward. Years passed, and Earth's empire grew stronger. It was not a perfect galaxy, but it was a better one. The Council's shadow had been lifted, and in its place stood a new hope. A hope led by Earth, but shared by all who had fought for freedom. The galaxy had been changed forever. The days of oppression were gone, and a new era had begun. Earth had risen from being a forgotten, weak planet to becoming the center of a united galaxy. It had taken courage, determination, and the willingness to fight for what was right. Now, Earth was not just a planet. It was the heart of a new empire, one that would guide the galaxy toward a future where peace, freedom, and cooperation reigned. And with that, Earth's empire began its journey, not just as a ruler of planets, but as a beacon of hope for all species everywhere.